Hey everyone, Pastor Nathan here. We're continuing our study on the book of Revelation, and today we're still in Revelation chapter 6, but we've moved on from the four horsemen of the apocalypse to the fifth seal being opened. Revelation chapter 6, starting at verse 9. Now, when he, that is the Lamb, opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the witness they had borne. They cried out with a loud voice, O sovereign Lord, holy and true, how long before you will judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? And then they were each given a white robe and told to rest a little longer until the number of their fellow servants and their brothers should be complete, who were to be killed as they themselves had been. There's a fair bit going on there in this fifth seal. So what we see kind of initially are a few things in this image. One is we see that there are saints and they're under an altar. They have questions for God and God has answers for them. And those are really the three things we see with this section. The first is these saints. These saints are particularly those ones who were killed for the faith, and they're under this altar. Well, what is that? The altar typically, at least in this section of the book of Revelation, reflects God's, the space where the prayers of the saints go before God. So the reality that these martyred Christians are under the altar is not a reference to this, hey, they're going to be really uncomfortable until Jesus' return in heaven. No, the symbolism that's going on here is that the saints are, their prayers are rising before God. That is, they are, what they have to say, their questions, their concerns rise before God. And their questions are kind of like twofold. One is, how long is this going to be? When is this going to be finished? Not just sort of like how long until you avenge us, right? But also, how long until our fellow brothers and sisters in the faith no longer have to suffer these kinds of things? How long until the situation of the world changes? How long before you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? So the first is you've got the saints are under this altar and they're praying to God. They've got questions for God. The second thing is they're questioning themselves, like how long until you avenge? Because we don't avenge. We didn't seek revenge, and our fellow Christians are not seeking to avenge our deaths. You got to notice how it's all tied together there. So as the followers of Jesus, as Christians, we have a mission. It's to proclaim the gospel, and it is on account of Jesus Christ that we are persecuted and killed in this world. The reality for the Christian is that their responsibility is to share the gospel, not to enact revenge for their fellow members of the church being killed for the sake of the gospel. The Christian, from John's perspective here, as he's being shown these things by Jesus, the Christian follows in the way of Jesus Christ. And in some cases that means as Jesus was killed, so also the follower of Jesus is killed in this time frame. That the previous four scenes happen to all of the world. The entire earth, the four horsemen of the apocalypse, Christian and non-Christian, are experiencing all these kinds of things up to the end. But this fifth one, only the Christian experiences. So you've got the saints under the altar. Their question is how long. They proclaim the gospel. They brought good news of Jesus to the people around the world, and they did not seek revenge, and their fellow Christians are not seeking revenge for them because they're asking the question, how long until you avenge, O Lord? Revenge and avenging is not in the playbook for the church and Christianity. That God's the one who's going to repay. He's the one who's going to enact that sort of vengeance for his bride, or the bride of his son, Jesus, at the end of time. We're going to see kind of starting that with the sixth seal, but that's next weekend. And that's really the third thing. So the third thing here is God's response. There's not a spoken response, in at least not a quoted response, but what John gives us is they were handed white robes, and then they were told to wait a little longer until this number is complete. The number of their fellow servants, or the martyrs, the number of Christians is complete who are going to become Christian. Until that number is completed, wait. Just wait. Then God will show the reality of who he is, who his people are, and who the enemies of his people are. While that's not really always clear right now who that is, like what's he doing, who's in the church, who's out of the church, and who's for the mission, who's not for the mission, that's not always clear right now. What is clear is that someday it will be made clear. So the responsibility then of those who have been martyred, and indeed all Christians who have died in the faith, they get white robes, and they're told to rest. They're reminded of their baptism. They're reminded that they've been covered in the blood of the Lamb, and that all has been taken care of, and all will be taken care of in its due time. And they just need to rest. They can rest from their labors. The martyrs, those have gone before us, the church militant in the faith to the church triumphant, rest until the number of people whom God in his foreknowledge knows will come to the faith is complete. And that number is not yet done yet. As otherwise, the end would be here. The literal end of the world would be here, but it's not yet. So there's work for the church to do in the church's calling, gospelizing mission in the world. So, anyhow, hope that's helpful for you in this section. Talk again soon. Take care.